Perhaps in our world, and there was such a hotel about which I will tell today, but sincerely hope that no one even thought of such a thing. So enjoy the show. While children play catch-up in the corridors of a certain mansion and find mountains of human and bloody clothes in one of the gloomy rooms, the post-apocalyptic world forces people to survive. A little girl, Alice, came to get her friend Lisa, but when she heard strange noises behind the open door of her neighbors, she noticed a soft toy under her feet, and immediately her parents came running, after which by opening the door we can observe that a certain woman decided not to suffer in this world anymore. From newspaper clippings we can find out that it began after the explosion of an American nuclear submarine off the coast of San Francisco. Their family lives in a certain abandoned house, where Leonora's mother dreams that her daughter has been kidnapped by someone, but after waking up, the daughter finds herself in her bed and asks her mother to scare the monsters. But the girl is frightened by the screams outside the door pleading for help, but Leonora suggests that she just ignore it. And once in bed with her husband discussing their plight, she notices an old poster from when she was a theater actress. The next day they feed Lisa with leftovers from a canned food, and outside the window they hear the shouts of a caller. Leonora quickly leaves the house, and it turns out that the Wanderer is calling everyone to a play put on by a certain kind Matthias. But when the girl returns home with the tickets, her husband Jacob thinks that no one is putting on a play at this hour and there is probably something wrong. However, he agrees to go there just to get his daughter's hope back. At the entrance to the play, the Wanderer says that children are not allowed, but immediately Matthias appears from the shadows and allows the girl to pass, for these children have seen horrors worse than this play. Inside, everything turns out as if they went back many years ago, when the whole world was civilized, and when they sat down at the table the waiters brought everyone a meal of not canned but normal food. After the meal, they meet Lars, Katrina, and Susan, but when Leonora inquires about the fact that they also made an exception for Susan to enter, her parents don't even know what she is talking about. Immediately on stage appears Matthias, who explains that tonight their scene will be a hotel, where they will experience an unforgettable experience. The rules are simple. They should put on these masks and explore the hotel. If they see a person in a mask, it is the spectator. If a face, it is the actor, as immediately the performance begins in the form of a quarrel between a man and a woman, and everyone puts on their masks, after which the viewing begins. Leonora and Jacob and Alice see the couple reuniting their kitchen, from which they have recently been brought a delicious dinner. And when they reach a long hallway of rooms in which there are quarrels, rapes and conflicts between Matthias and the woman, one of the actors looks at Leonora and Alice with fear, after which he quickly runs away. They also capture a girl running away without a mask, but they think it is an actress, except that the girl had to worry a little and her parents calmed her down. After that, the girl says that one of the actresses called the number 405 and the family goes there. Only it is hard not to notice that all the people have disappeared somewhere, and their daughter began to follow one of the actresses and wandered into the dark corridors, but they managed to catch up with her. Only while they were talking, the daughter had already disappeared. They hear her screams in room 536, only when Jacob breaks down the door, the girl is no longer there in the flickering lights. Jacob is very sorry that he agreed to bring his family here, and at the end of the hallway they hear Katrina, with whom they were sitting at the same table. Jacob offers to see room 405, but Katrina opens the windows and decides to explore the bedroom, but while Jacob is sharpening his attention that there are bars on the windows, Katrina, screaming, seems to dissolve. However, Leonora thinks that the painting of Lamb has blinked, and Jacob is convinced that it is a painting, and on the floor they find Katrina's earring, which the girl had noticed at the table. On the landing they meet a man who asks to prove to them that they are spectators, but they throw away their masks, so he rather hides, and they find a waiter in one of the rooms, who screams that they have taken him away and asks them to get out quickly, after which he slits his own throat. But while Jacob was calming Leonora down, Raquel appeared and asked them to follow into the hall, and not to pretend to be the man who had just cut his throat open. And when they follow her, they find their daughter's soft toy at the door, and behind the door, in addition to mounds of clothes, Lars finds a bag of blood, but Jacob tastes it and it turns out to be a sweet mixture, so they think it is all part of the show. Then they decide to find the hall that Raquel told them about. There it turns out to be about 24 people on their knees, whom Matthias has asked to trust each other to remain a family, but Lars notices people in white suits who have been cleaning things up and offers to follow them. However, they take the carts of clothes into the white light and throw them away, but their Leonora also sees the voice of her daughter, but they still continue to follow one of the men who passed into the opening, but coming up there, it turned out to be a picture, which puzzled Leonora, and unfortunately only she saw it. The men remove the painting, but it turns out to be a wall behind it. As they continue through the hotel, they come to the kitchen and see one of the men taking clothes down the kitchen elevator, so they rather go down the stairs and find that very elevator and the oven in which they burn their clothes. And while Leonora and Jacob are arguing, Lars falls into despair and Jacob is grabbed from behind by the very man who slit his throat. Lars escapes and Jacob lashes out and asks her to run, but another employee is at the door and she hops into the elevator. Once in the kitchen, she notices that all the products were truly cheap fake, so she closes herself in one of the rooms and there immediately comes Gans, while the girl hides in the closet and notices newspaper clippings with headlines, "The famous director's daughter died in a fire," and the famous director buys out the hotel where his daughter died. But as soon as Gans approaches the closet with a knife, he is called from the hallway, for the second play begins. After he leaves, she finds an envelope from Raquel on the table, and inside she thinks it is a picture of Matthias with Alice, but a moment later she sees another girl there. When she arrives in the auditorium, Matthias instructs the staff to play more believably and asks them if the actors don't have enough strength for the audience to pass it on to the stronger ones and not struggle. Only when he asks Raquel to play more believably, she declares that he does not appreciate her and she will never be his wife. He yells at her not to forget where he took her from or he will have to return her to the cold. Suddenly Catherine appears and complains that someone pressed the trigger, which caused her to lose her earring, but when Leonora follows her, her shadow is spotted by Matthias, but peeking at her and Raquel, she sees her daughter again. Minnie Alice appears around, screaming "Mother," but Leonora gets rid of the visions with effort and overhears a conversation between Katrina and a man who forbids her to go down into the tunnels for the earring, and she leaves. But immediately Leonora hears a caller who leads new people to the play. After they leave, she enters the room and finds a button on a painting that takes her down into those very tunnels, and at one of the exits she sees a white hair on the floor, mistaking it for Alice, then returns where she hears Katrina ask to push people into the descents. The rest of the work will be done by the people in the tunnels. But after following one of them, she sees a kitchen where these same people are working to carve up human corpses, and Lars appears behind her, who eventually knocks her out. She wakes up suspended upside down, and Matthias asks her to join them, for she has lasted longer than anyone he has ever known, and he is in no way embarrassed by the fact that they eat people, which is why Leonora refuses to work for them. Matthias asks Lars to deal with her, and then his family is given a better number. Only before he does, he apologizes for Alice and hangs up her dress, but when she calls them murderers, Matthias asks her to apologize, for they are forced to survive. And Lars prepares to go to work, just as Jacob immediately appears and asks his wife to join them, for this is their only way to survive and get a purpose. But when she refuses, he asks Lars for a knife to earn his trust, only to end up stabbing Lars with it and managing to cut Leonora's rope before getting stabbed between the ribs himself. Lars begins to chase the girl among the corpses, but finds himself trapped against the wall. She bites him and pushes him right on the hook. But when she returns to her husband, he dies right in her arms, and after tasting the blood from Alice's dress, she realizes it is sweet, which means Alice is alive. While Matthias was presenting his performance to the new audience, Leonora snuck through the tunnels in a mask and made her way out into the corridors, where people were already grabbing the audience, and those who were watching someone else's love were thrown straight into the tunnels. She bumps into Gans again, but when she sees that the picture is opening, she puts a mask on him and mistakes him for an audience member who strangles the actor, so she twists Gans's neck. She finally arrives at the hall where Matthias meets the new audience, but when the girl talks about Matthias being a murderer and kidnapping her daughter, and their dinner was human meat, everyone takes her for an actress who does her part perfectly, and Matthias welcomes her into his theater, but she begins to say that she chases away the evil spirits as her frightened daughter and leaves, causing people to follow her, but Matthias orders them to detain them and take her away. But because of the crowd, they can't get to her, and she opens passages to them, showing them the very kitchen with the horrors, which causes all the people to start running away, and the actors learn that in fact Matthias has been burning the jewels he promised to sell, and that they have been eating human meat all this time, for which Matthias is instantly hated and Raquel stabs him, after which he admits that he took Alice because she looks a lot like his daughter, and now she must feel what he felt and be alone. Only when they take him away, Alice appears on the stairs. Only Leonora thinks it is not real. Only when the girl begins to sing, her mother finally recognizes her and hugs her, telling her that now they will have to live without her father. And finally, The hotel, whose corridors were filled with the blood of innocent people, was empty, and the main villain with his desires was finally destroyed. And mother and daughter left the hotel, and when they returned to the gloomy city, where corpses lay on the sidewalk, they looked one last time at the ill-fated hotel, illuminated by the rays of the sun.